So we're going to build some shelves in this pantry. In this back side here, we're going to have the this wall here from this bump out over there, shelf there, connecting over to here, and then coming along this wall about 5 feet into here. And the shelves will start about 20 inches from the floor up and then come up to counter height. Then we'll have a piece of granite that'll sit in there. And then we'll have shelves going all the way to the top of the ceiling. This is a 10-foot high ceiling. And we'll start with a straight up piece of 4x8 plywood to build these and show you the process that we take from there. Now for your edges, you're going to want to get something like this. These cost about $6 or $7. I get it at Lowe's. I'm using this red oak because I've got Oak Veneer plywood. And this, you iron it on, literally with an iron. Comes in 25-foot lengths, and you just cut it to fit. I cut it ahead of time, and then I lay it on the board, and then iron it down. And it works really good, and it makes for a nice edge. It glues down tight. And then I'll show you there's a tool that you need in order to trim the edges and then get it ready for sanding. So here's how I put the edging on the edge of plywood. You can see that edge, it's got the multiple layers that they glue together to make the plywood. And then this edging is made out of the same material that you see on the face here. And it has glue on the back side. And just very easily, you set it on here. You just hold it in place. And then you take your iron and you just iron it on. And that's it. And the glue holds it really good. But there's always a little bit of overhang that hangs over the edge. So you need to use a special tool, or you could do it with just a sander, but the tool makes it easy to grab a hold of that edge and cut it off. So this has, you could do it on two sides, this one or this one, and it has razor blades inside there that are going to cut that little stream of extra plywood off of the edging. And it clamps down in, and you just slide it across. So I'll go ahead and do this one, and then I'll show you how I cut that edge off after it dries. And I usually set the iron on about the 3/4 hot, not the full hot, but about the 3/4. And once you've got it started, you can actually slide it around a little bit. And that glue sets up really. So I just got it started on that end. Stretch it out here. Just set the little tool there just to hold it in place. And just try to center it and iron it right down the middle. I'm just going to run the length of it and get it stuck down. And then I'm going to go back and really heat it up good to make sure all the glue released and started to bond. I had some spots here that were misbehaving, and now they're staying down. Now I'm going to let it cool down and harden and dry, because if you try to cut this too quick with this cutter, you'll end up getting glue all over the place because there's going to be some still liquefied glue in there. Better to just let it cool down and then just cut it off straight and clean. It's got an arrow showing you which way to go, but obviously we have to have the blades on the cutting edge. Just squeeze that. And there you go. It starts to catch all that extra that hangs off the edge. And you just strip it right off. And that's it. Now your edge is square with the rest of the board. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down first coat of stain on this board. This is plywood that's not been sanded yet or anything fancy, but I did put the edge on, ironed that on there, and then scraped off the extra edge with that cutting tool. And now I'm just going to lay down my stain, which is this pretty thick stuff here, and I'm just using a foam brush. That's all I use. I don't do anything fancy with a rag or anything. I'm just using a straight up foam brush and laying it on pretty thick, and then spreading it out, evening it out a whole length back to get rid of any marks like this. So I want these to be pretty dark, so I'm not going to worry about how thick I lay it on. There's all kinds of different brushes and rollers you could use probably, but I just bought a whole pack of 50 of these foam ones with the good insert on the inside, the wooden handles, and they just work good. I'm just used to it. Not sure how good the lighting is in here, but you can just see that really brings out the tone in the oak. This is an oak plywood, and that's it. Nothing too fancy here. And this gives you a little bit of a view as to what it's going to look like after the polyurethane is added, because it's now wet and it's got this nice glossy look to it, or semi-gloss, I guess. But when it dries, it'll look pretty boring, plain. And then when you put that polyurethane on, it's really going to jump out again at you and look good. So I'll go ahead and finish up this board, and we'll let it dry, and then get ready to do a rough sand on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with a sander and some pretty fine sandpaper that I'm using. I'm using about 220 grit, mainly because that's what I had, and I knew it wasn't super aggressive. But if you had 150, 180, that'd probably be fine too. I just don't want to sand down through the stain completely. I am going to go ahead and hit it pretty hard, rough it, get that rough stuff right off. If you hear this, it is very rough. It's got one coat of stain, and it'll rise in these ridges of the wood. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pretty aggressive with this sander, and I'm going to knock it down and get it nice and smooth. So here, this one I've already sanded, and it's already getting nice and smooth. When I get that second touch up with stain on there and hit it with another coat of polyurethane, it's definitely going to be nice and smooth after that, and like get to the point of being glass. You put a third coat of polyurethane, it's going to get even better. So like I said, you can be aggressive with it. You don't have to baby it on this first pass. You want to just knock off all that high stuff and get it to where the next pass is going to, next stain in polyurethane is going to be nice and smooth. Much smoother. So this is going to be, I'm going to keep cleaning it up, get the dust out of it, hit it with a light coat of stain to touch up, let that dry, and then I'm going to go back again and hit it with a polyurethane. So these boards are sanded and they're, you know, looking pretty rough, and then hit it with this touch up for the stain and hit it with another polyurethane after this. You'll see that they clean up real nice, and then the light spots will just be filled in and start to get some really good color. So we got another coat of stain. Now it's starting to feel nice and smooth when you run the brush across it. And because we did do that one sanding. And now what we'll do is we'll let this dry, and then I'm going to hit it with polyurethane, and same thing, use that small brush and just go quickly across. It'll spread real easy now that we're getting it nice and smooth and filling in all those gaps, and colors coming in the way we like it as well. And after we get that polyurethane down, at that point might be done. I have to see how it goes down, and if not, sand it one more time and do a third coat of polyurethane, and that'll look really nice if you do the third coat, but it's not always needed. But we'll see how it feels. So now I got your clear semi-gloss polyurethane. Get this at Lowe's, Home Depot. And I'm just going to lay it on there pretty liberally, and it's going to go on nice and smooth. It's like glass now. There's no rough edges anymore after you've done that first sand and over the stain there. Did that first sand, and then came back and hit it again with stain. And it's just nice and smooth now. And what's going to happen is polyurethane is going to go down, and you're going to want to be careful. You don't want to stir the polyurethane, make a lot of bubbles in there. You don't want a lot of bubbles laid down when you're putting it on with your brush, for obvious reasons. But what I found is you lay it out flat after you're done putting the polyurethane on there, and it levels itself out. It fills in the low spots, the bubbles will go away, and it'll come out nice and smooth. But it might not look that way immediately, but that's what's going to end up happening. You might have some streaks, little waves in it as I'm putting it down. But after it gets some time and the gravity pulls on it and it settles in, it's going to just be nice and smooth and be like a nice ice rink. And I'm pretty much having to touch my brush, not a lot into the bucket, but I am having to touch my brush in there each time so I lay down enough. Then I just want to go back and look and see if there's anything where I missed or where it's really thick, and you can kind of even that out. But it is pretty forgiving, and if you did screw this up and this coat didn't look good, you can just go back and hit it with the sander again. And you don't have to be shy about it. You just whack it with the sander, wipe all that dust off when you're done. Sometimes in the past I've hit it with an air compressor, but just wipe it down really good. Tack cloth is disposable rags they sell at Home Depot that has some sticky stuff on it that helps collect the dust even better. And tack cloth's good to just wipe it down and then hit it again with another coat, and you'll see it just goes right back to being like glass again. So real quick, I'm going to do this edge with a light coat, because like I said, the gravity pulls it down, so I don't want to make any drips or put it too thick on this edge. And then just let that go and put that in a safe place so that it'll dry. So that's how you put the polyurethane down. This dries pretty quickly. You're going to be able to lay this down and probably 6 hours later be able to flip it over and then do your backside. It might be a little bit tacky, but probably pretty dry by then. So you can do both sides in a day, thankfully, or do 2 coats if you needed to. And versus the stain, to me the stain just seems to take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm going to start nailing up my boards here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this air nailer just to tack them in. And then I'll drill pilot holes that recess slightly and put the screws into the studs for the true support. And then this little thing hanging off the wall here is a magnet. It's an easy way to find studs. You just slide up and down and look for the sheetrock screws. And we'll go ahead and set that up now. And that's going to give me space for that screw to recess into the wood flush. All right, let's make some progress. Got the strips put in place for the bottom levels. We're gonna have a shelf at the very bottom and then a granite countertop inside here with a little bit of a higher spread, so that way it can accommodate a coffee machine and some taller things. And then all the rest of the shelves going up, you have your board here, and that'll be the shelf. And then I've got a 12-inch spacers on each side, and then here's my next piece, which is about 2 inches thick here, and then it gives me a span of 14 inches, and I found that's the right height for keeping it, maximize the amount of shelves you can put on the top to bottom, but it fits cereal boxes and it fits most boxes that you have in your pantry. So putting in the piece that goes in between the other two, and this is held in with pocket holes. Let me show you how those work. So I'm putting the pocket hole up top because you can't see this from the bottom. So the bottom looks nice and smooth. This is a Krieg clamp that's self-adjusting, that's really good for things like this, to keep both surfaces flush. And I've just set the pocket hole screws in here. And the way these work is you have to use a really long extension of that square bit that they use, so that your drill doesn't hit the side of the board that you're trying to get on this really sharp angle here. And then when that screw goes into the other board, it goes in very square and nice and strong bond here. So I'll be doing that on both sides for these, all of these boards down the center part with 6 pocket holes each. So what I'm going to do is tighten this side really tight, and then tighten the other side so it'll, to close any gap, it'll pull this board off the wall a little bit, and then I'll just tack it down. And I might have a small gap, but it'll be along that wall, you won't see it. So now we're all installed here and ready for the granite. Granite will come on this layer here. You go around, and we have some plugs in this pantry also. And so that way you can put a coffee maker or a toaster or something else you want to keep out of the kitchen in here. And I'm not going to put in this shelf here yet, just to give space for when the granite comes in, so that the guys can operate and have some room here. Because once we get all the shelves in, we do lose a lot of space in the center of this tiny pantry. But here you can see how they're coming out. I put the side board here. This gives a lot of strength for these boards as well. This one's attached by 3 pocket holes along this side on all of the boards going up and down. So that makes that pretty strong, helps that out. And also put another support brace in the middle here for the granite, so the granite won't be just leaning completely on this edge out here and the back walls. So that'll help. I think these ones here are going to be in one piece of granite, cut from one piece. It's going to go across and over, so don't really need any more supports in there, and have a nice corner to support it in the back there. And it'll be epoxied to the other, this piece going across here. It'll be epoxied right about in here. And that, or I guess this will be epoxied to it in here, and that that tight fit will make that piece be self-supporting against all the back braces. So, all right, so we get that granite in. We'll give you a look at that. Granite is now installed on this level here. That just went in yesterday. So now we can go ahead and finish up this layer of shelves and the bottom layer of shelves, and we'll be done. Hey, if this video helped you build a set of shelves for your pantry or closet, please hit the subscribe button and like the video, and that'll help other people find it as well. Have a great day.